check this out.
Yeah?
This is fresh Twitter right here.
We got some fresh tweets.
We got fresh Twitter. We got fresh Warrior Twitter.
Fresh X.
Okay? And this is coming from somebody, speaking of being out here sounding like a hater, Kevin O'Connor of Yahoo has been the number one NBA media voice who's been like, the Warriors are dust, dude. Blow this thing up. This is stupid. He literally tweeted like 2 hours ago, Kevin Durant is wise to not want to return to Golden State. Steph and Draymond are on the decline. Their young players show little promise. They have limited assets. It's over.
I don't know the man, and his reporting seems pretty solid, but his Twitter bugs me.
He'll needle now. He gonna poke you.
No, and he did with that tweet.
Okay. Well,
and all of a sudden now we got fresh O'Connor.
We got fresh O'Connor, but it's of a very different tone. You heard many reporters say they literally thought last night, and Sam Amick said this, they thought last night the Durant to the Warriors thing was about to land. And then it didn't. Here's what Kevin O'Connor tweeted 10 minutes ago. Jimmy Butler to Golden State is about as loud in NBA circles as Kevin Durant to Golden State was yesterday at this same time. We'll see if the Warriors and Heat can actually reach the finish line on this one, though. So many thought that Durant to the Warriors was about to hit last night. It didn't. Kevin O'Connor is saying that many believe that Jimmy Butler to Golden State is at that same first and goal right now. Do not leave 95-7 the game. I'm telling you this. I'm not saying it'll land, but it could land. It could land in 60 seconds.
It could. And while I'm reacting to that, why don't you refresh the Warrior injury report to see if anybody has popped up as
That's a good one.
Probable, questionable, or even out, because Grandy played the rejoin. Hi, this is Andrew Wiggins, and I do think that he would have to be the centerpiece of a deal. And Grandy and this news and this fresh tweet made me go back to the trade machine.
Okay.
And Wiggins, Schroeder, and GP2 for Jimmy Butler, it works in the NBA trade machine from a salary standpoint.
Fresh injury report continues to keep Draymond and Andrew Wiggins as probable, but we are told they are available tonight.
So they will play.
Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green are available for the Warriors tonight in Utah.
Tip time 6 o'clock Pacific Standard. So we've got another 80 minutes.
Yeah.
If something happens between now and then, all of a sudden Andrew Wiggins or Draymond theoretically would pop up as out, or heck, it could even be a DNP coach's decision. It would be really awkward if, Wiggins got subbed out of the game and Kerr brought him over and put his arm around him and just said, you're locker room, street clothes.
Yeah.
You go.
You know what? I'll tell you why I don't think that that's even a thing in this one. Obviously, yes, Miami would want Andrew Wiggins to play, but this particular case, I would not think that even an ankle sprain would be preventative to this kind of a deal. Miami has got to get rid of Jimmy Butler. Like that, to me, for 2 months now, that's been something that is already decided. They can't keep him. And I know you've said it, and I agree with you. Yes, they're allowed to.
Yeah.
They could play that, but I don't think that card makes any sense for them at all.
It doesn't, but
So
when you're talking about Pat Riley and a guy who...
You're right.
He's not used to taking losses of this magnitude, and this is one where they've already suspended him 3 times. So I do believe if this trade happens, it's going to happen not out of Miami's desperation or out of their consternation. It's going to be because Miami thinks it's getting a good deal.
Well, maybe. But again, I'm with you. Pat Riley is going to drive a hard bargain, and he could be very stubborn in all of this. But I also just don't think that that's the path they're going to choose. It's not the best path for them. And so Andrew Wiggins is not an expiring contract. If you want Andrew Wiggins, you're still going to want Andrew Wiggins even if he kind of tweaks an ankle tonight.
That's fair.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to want him for the next 3 seasons potentially.
You got him for next year, and then it's a player option for $30 million. And as we've seen with Andrew Wiggins, last time around, he signed a 4-year, $109 million deal. That's not a lot for a player of his ilk?
Not at all.
That's 25.5 average annual.
And it's a lot better than what you're getting right now out of your other wing, which is a big old heap and pile of nothing and a migraine headache.
For $48.8 million.
Yeah.
And he's got a player option for 50 plus that he says he won't exercise, but I don't know. I'm still out on it. And,
so am I. Like, let's go down that road for a second, and then we'll go back to the phones at 888-957-9570. You and I both said it. I think we're in agreement. I am out on all things Jimmy Butler. But here's what I will say about it. I do understand the thought process here. I understand the thought process and what was the deal you came up with? You're talking Wiggins,
Schroeder, and GP2.
And GP2 probably, or Looney. Let's say it's that.
Yeah.
Okay? And that works. And Jimmy is telling you, I'm not signing an extension. So would you do that deal even if Jimmy leaves in 2.5 months? And here's, to me, I think maybe would be the thought process of the Warriors is let's take that chance and let's stir the pot this year, see if that takes us somewhere. And if it doesn't, and we lose Jimmy at the end of the year, you're essentially turning Andrew Wiggins into an expiring contract, which is not the worst thing in the world because you already know right now, as much as you love Andrew, it's not working. It's not working. You got to shuffle the deck. So, like, holding on to Andrew Wiggins so that you can, I don't know what, later on in his contract is probably not that attractive. Everybody loves Andrew, but it's not working.
Well, I don't think you can look at it not working and point to Andrew. He's been probably your second best player all year.
I don't mean to point it at him. I just mean this collection. It's not enough. So either turn it into Jimmy, and maybe that works. And if it doesn't, well, you're going to turn it into something else. And instead, you would have open money in the offseason as opposed to Andrew.
You're going to have open money anyway because all these guys are coming off the books.
But you'd have even more.
It's a little bit more. It's instead of having $40 million, you'd have 48 with Jimmy, assuming he opts out. And I'm not sold that he would opt out. I'm not interested in getting in the Jimmy Butler business. And if you just stand pat, you have Schroeder at 13 coming off, Gary Payton at 9, Looney at 8. That's $30 million right there. Kuminga's $7 million comes off the books, whether you sign him or not. That's $37 million. Lindy Waters at 2. You're at $40 million coming off the books. So you're going to have room. And if you want to trade Wiggins or if you want to have this not work, you have pieces you can trade in the offseason.
Listen, again, I'm largely with you.
Yeah.
But if that's their thought process, I can at least understand where they're coming from. A year ago this time, they were asking anybody to just take Andrew Wiggins. And here they are now where he's playing a whole lot better, but I don't think that they're suddenly in the business of, like, that's our future. It's not enough. And so if you turn it into what would essentially be $28 million of free space next year, that's not the worst thing that could happen. That's all I'm saying. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
And I think Jimmy Butler is not the answer, but I get where they're coming from because what they've clearly told us for the last number of weeks is what we do know is that this doesn't work. This that we have right now does not work.
Yes, and Om Young Misuk, who joined us earlier, first time I said it, I was trying to get it right. You were nailing it all interview. He mentioned that Jimmy usually, when he goes to a new team, crushes it for the first stint and then blows it up.
He called him Jimmy Baller.
Yeah, which I thought was a great name. And Jimmy Buckets is the unofficial. But if he can come here and crush it for 2 months, maybe you do jump up to a 7 or an 8 seed and it has some impact. But it just scares me bringing in a guy who has proved to be volatile before.
I totally get that also. I really do. I would not do this, but in the current state of affairs, the thought process is not completely lost on me. That's the way I would say it. JG in Sunnyvale, next up on Willard and Dips. Thank you so much for the call. JG, what's up?
Fellas, thanks for taking the call. Look, check it out. The Dubs are on the outside looking in for free agency. KD, Jimmy Butler said they don't want to come here. Whether it's Laker, Kerr, Draymond, Curry, relationships do matter, especially what we saw with the Lakers-Mavs trade. Look, Kerr seemed to predict and tell Dubs fans and all of us they may or may not make a move. And, you know, we're going to get JK back soon, and let's see what we got. But doesn't seem to be like what's left out there in the free agent pool is going to boost us up to a championship level team unless we're willing to give up way too much for the future or for the short term for this Curry timeline, right? So to me, Brandon Ingram, BI is the next quote unquote best option, depending on what the ask or return is. But it just doesn't seem like if guys don't want to come here, let's not force the issue. Let's accept where we are at, and maybe we need to let go of Draymond. But I just want to know what y'all think. Thank you for taking the call.
Yeah.
It's not goodbye. See you later.
Okay, good stuff, JG. Yeah,
Nice,
we will.
JG.
We'll talk to you later. Look, I guess the only way I can try to answer that is sort of like what we know about the Warrior organization and this whole idea of, hey, if guys don't want to come here, then you just got to sort of accept that and move forward. That's not Joe Lacob. Joe Lacob does not strike me as the just accept it. Just accept that you're not the best. That's just not his trait, man. And I get that part of it. So I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think he feels that way, that this is not a good destination. I don't think it's the destination that he thinks it is, but he's running the show. And then as far as the Brandon Ingram thing, that to me, that's the move that would reek of desperation. Not because I don't like Brandon Ingram, but because I know the Warriors have never liked Brandon Ingram. Like all we've heard for a year and a half is everyone thinks that's a bad fit. So if they suddenly make that deal, that feels to me like something that would just be to appease the fans.
Right, and I do think that his contract is a lot bigger and a lot longer. Is he expiring this year, Brandon Ingram, or does he have one more year, Grandy?
I thought he had one more.
Yeah, I'll look it up. But
I got you.
I mean, it's a guy who's been so far off the radar that I've kind of tuned it out as far as, what it would take to get him, because I do think that it's a bad fit in terms of personality and the rest. And
no, he is expiring.
So they have $36 million.
He's expiring. So, in another way, maybe that's the other attractive. If the Warriors do get in on Brandon Ingram, maybe that's part of it, is again turning Wiggins and then subsequently Brandon into being an expiring deal.
Right. And if you can buy low and it turns out to just be Schroeder and Wiggins for Brandon Ingram, see if that works. And that one would work.
That would work.
Warriors get 15 wins worse. New Orleans gets 12 wins worse. But
I love the deals where everybody just tanks.
Hollinger analysis, and and I think it's based on the performance index that he comes up with. But that's a lose-lose, Mark.
Yep.
I mean, I would rather have Wiggins than Ingram, absolutely. Especially because you'd have Wiggins for another year and then a player option, and he fits. Brandon Ingram, probably more talented, but
this is what's interesting when you use that word, though. When you say we know Wiggins fits, that's based on our love for him and based on the history we've seen with him and 3 years ago and all of that. The Warriors might argue, how can you say he fits? You're asking him to be your second best player right now, and we kind of stink. So does it fit? It's not enough.
Right, it's not enough, but he fits. You know that he plays the way that you need him to play.
Right.
I don't know if Brandon Ingram plays the way you would want your, stretch three to play.
Yeah. Well, everybody has admitted the Warriors are in a tough spot, and there's no perfect answer. So that's kind of what they're dealing with. Again, it's Kevin O'Connor who says that the Jimmy to the Warriors talk is at a very, very loud pitch as we speak. So keep it locked right here. Something could go down at any minute. There's also a Warrior game in just over an hour. Let's go to Dave in Fresno. Hi, Dave. We appreciate your call.
Hey, I appreciate you guys getting me on. I think a question that needs to be answered with all this trade talk with the Warriors is, there's that argument that you don't want to trade assets and picks and, players, young players. But I think a question that needs to be answered is, with the coach that we have now, Steve Kerr, does he want to deal with those assets and those players and these, lottery picks that could become? I think with his track record, I think he feels more comfortable with the veteran roster, similar to his protege, Phil Jackson. And I think with how they've handled Kuminga, Paz, and Moody, I myself have a little concern with that direction with him as the coach. This is not me questioning as a head coach. I'm just saying with the track record, I don't know if that's what he wants to do. I think the notion of getting a Jimmy Butler or KD, that kind of fits what this mold wants to do. And is he here just to be with Steph and Draymond, or is he here, hey, I'm here to go past that? So as an organization, they need to figure out, hey, well, we're going to build for the future. I think a question you need to answer, like, well, do we have that coach for that future? So,
well, but Dave, what if I said to you, they do not feel Steve Kerr is the coach for the future. They do feel that Steve is just going to align with Steph and Draymond, and that whether the fans agree or not, they're not thinking about the future. They're still trying to live the now with those three personalities. What would you say to that?
And that's that's what I see too.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we cannot trade now and do the song and dance in the summer next year. I mean, if we have nothing to offer, we kind of got to showcase these guys, and we haven't really been doing that. I think we can wait till the summer, but if nobody wants to come at some point, that might be your only option. So again, that's a question that needs to be answered. I think Kevin Durant made most sense with the situation they are in now, or another veteran player. So yeah, I do think they need to make a trade with this current head coach, and obviously with Steph Curry and Draymond. I think having Draymond, I don't know if that plays a role. Maybe people are hesitant because he's still here. But, again, to me, that's something that needs to be considered.
Dave, thanks. Yeah, it's an interesting call. And I think part of the pickle that the Warriors are in right now, it's all about timing. And in many ways, over the last couple of years, the timing is not all messed up.
Right, and the timing changed when you won a title a few years ago, because now you're chasing one for the thumb, and the development of your young players was altered by the fact that Wiseman was dealt and Poole got popped, and so the two timelines kind of blew up, and yet here you are not ready to totally turn the page. You're still holding on to the dream of making one last run with Steph.